Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed and Becomes the Big Dog Roman Reigns WWE Wrestlemania movie. Before we start, please go support Guerrero Legends for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei, after being abandoned by the girls he once loved, suffers the worst curse a dragon can receive because of the sadness, abandonment, and pain he felt because of that. After seeing that he no longer had any salvation, he decides to give his last fight at the biggest event of all, Wrestlemania, where he will give everything he has to show what he is capable of without knowing that it would only be the beginning of a new adventure. Chapter 1. The war was over, the Chaos Brigade had been destroyed and peace reigned again in both worlds. Relations between the factions improved. Issei Hyodou, the current Hyodou and the strongest of all time, could now spend time with the girls he loves with great madness. But it seemed that fate had another situation planned for him. Since after the war, the Gremry girls distanced themselves from Issei, and all because of a mistake that they themselves caused. Flashback 3 weeks after the war, you could see an Issei deeply asleep due to the tiredness of all the work that Xerxes had given him, but in that the door of his room opened, revealing a Rias with a very provocative outfit. She only laughed as she approached provocatively. Rias climbed on Issei as she began to touch his torso delicately, causing Issei to wake up. Issei, Buicho, what are you doing? He asked somewhat nervously. Rias, SHHHH, I just want to make my fiancé feel good, she said, getting closer to Issei. Issei, Buicho, if you continue like this I won't be able to. He tried to say, but Rias had bitten Issei's neck, causing all sanity in him to go away. Issei's eyes suddenly went from hazel to green, to the shape of a dragon. He grabbed Rias and put her against the wall while he began to lick her breasts very roughly. Rias at first felt good, but the moment she felt Issei touch her, but she got quite angry. Rias, Issei, stop, I ordered without any success. I said stop, I shouted, giving him a slap, making him react. Issei, what happened to me? He said, seeing how Rias looked at him with fear and hatred. Buicho, he said, trying to get closer to Rias. Rias, get away from me, I screamed, leaving the room quickly. Issei, but what the hell happened to me? Drake, it wasn't your fault, mate, said the Welsh dragon, a little sad. Issei, why do you say that, Drake? Drake, look, dragons are extremely powerful beings, but also if we are provoked we are lustful, I explain. Issei, I understand now, he said, depressed. I just hope you let me explain this. After that incident, weeks passed in which Rias and the other girls stayed away from the brunette. He tried countless times to explain to them what Drake had told him, but they simply ignored him and even called him a pervert, something he never expected from them. Now Issei was walking through the streets of Kwa. His clothes were dirty. His hair was very unkempt, he had dark circles, he looked a little thinner and paler. But what stood out the most was that he was coughing up a lot of blood. Issei, coughing, it's... I hope they at least listen to me today, he said, something weak. Drake, buddy, you should rest, you're hurting yourself, the dragon said worriedly. Issei just walked without paying attention to his partner/brother. Issei was so focused on his thoughts that he didn't realize he had arrived in front of a restaurant where a certain redhead was having lunch with a certain silver-haired man. Drake, mate, it would be better if we got out of here, said the dragon, a little worried. Issei, why do you say that, Dr.? He didn't finish when he saw in front of him, there was Rias happily chatting with his best friend and rival Vala. The brown-haired boy only thought they were talking about normal things, but from one moment to the next Rias kissed him. That destroyed the brown-haired boy and he felt like his heart was breaking, so without further ado he left there quickly without seeing how Vala had become angry and was reproaching Rias. Vala, are you crazy or what's wrong with you? He asked, quite annoyed. Rias, what are you talking about? Vala, you're with Issei as you are. Rias, I'm not with him anymore. Vala, what? Rias, as you heard, I went into his room and lay down next to him and began to caress his chest, but from one moment to the next he was rough with me and I couldn't tolerate it anymore, she said angrily. Vala knew what had happened to Issei since he was also a dragon, and it had happened to him a few times with his girlfriend Kuroka. Vali, it's obvious that you don't know anything, Gremry, he said, angry and disappointed. Rias, what are you talking about? Vali, You ruined your happiness and that of the others. I'm not going to tell you why since that's your problem. Not mine, he said seriously, and then left there leaving a thoughtful Rias, but from one moment to the next he felt a pain in his heart and looked at the place where the brown-haired boy was before. With Issei, he had arrived at the occult club while several tears fell down his face. Issei was going to open the door, but then he heard some very energetic laughter, something that seemed strange to him, so he opened it and saw all the girls having fun, normal things. Don't be evil-minded with Kiba, Riser and Serorg. That destroyed him more, and he decided to leave there while he felt his heart break more. Issei began to walk while tears fell from his face as well as a few drops of blood coming from his mouth. Upon arriving at his house, the first thing that happened was that he got on his knees and began to vomit a lot of blood. Drake, partner, he said alarmed, you have to resist. Look, there is a spell, but it will take me time to prepare it and… Issei, no Drake. My time as the hero of the factions is over, he said seriously, surprising his companion. It is better that I go so that they can live their lives. Drake, so you're just going to give up like that? Issei remained thinking for a while until a memory that he thought he had forgotten passed through his mind, and it was about a bald man with a tattoo on his left chest that runs along part of his arm and a beard that made him look quite serious and tough, saying the following words to him. You will never be part of the Samoan family. Issei, no, he said, getting up, I still have something to do. Saying that, he went up to his room and began to pack his things. Then he turned the bed over, grabbed a box cutter and began to cut it, and from it he took out a black combat suit along with some black boots. Then he proceeded to put the suit in a very separate suitcase and then went downstairs to grab the money he had saved and leave his home. Issei, I still have to show him that I am also Samoan, he said, starting to walk in a direction while thinking about how to show that man that he was also a Samoan warrior. Chapter 2. The months passed in Kwa and the graduation festival had arrived, where Kwa Academy was going to say goodbye to its great senior students. Many attended the graduation, students, teachers, parents, many. Hidden Club, the Gremry clan could be seen gathered as they welcomed the leaders of the factions, Ophis, Vala's team, although Vala didn't want to be there, and the Hyodou patriarchs who had returned from their trip 15 minutes ago. They all congratulated the girls, but when they asked about Issei, the girls made a face of hatred. Something that was noticed by the leaders. Searches, Rias, what's going on? Rias sighed and proceeded to tell him everything that happened with Issei. To say that one was more than angry was an understatement, but it wasn't with Issei, but with the girls. Azazel. And they say I'm the stupid one, he said, disappointed. Searches, they have ruined everything, Rias said, equally disappointed. Rias, but what are you talking about, brother, if not? Vala, well, I think it's time to tell them since they are so stupid as not to know. Aquino, why do you say that? Vala, Albion, would you do me a favor? Albion, yes, partner, he said, materializing on the dragon's wings. You see, girls, we dragons are known for our great power, but also for our lustful instincts if you provoke us, he said, drawing the attention of the Gremry. Searches, and if a dragon at such a young age as Issei is provoked in that way, then this happens, Rias. The girls finally understood what Issei wanted to tell them, but because of their pride they didn't let him, so they were going to proceed to look for him until Vala stopped them. Vala, you better not go looking for him. Irina, but why? Zenobia, we have to do this to talk about our relationship. Kaneko, and our future with Issei-senpai. Vala, are you going to tell them or should I, Rias? He said seriously, only receiving silence from the redhead. Zeoticus, what do you mean, Vala? Valley, she had invited me to lunch a few months ago and I thought it was going to be just friends, so I accepted, but in the end she ended up kissing me, something that made me quite angry. When she said that, everyone looked at Rias in disbelief, who just lowered her head but received a slap from her mother. Venelana, you've disappointed me, Rias. I hope Issei doesn't find out about this. Valley, that's the problem, he said, drawing everyone's attention. Issei was there when Rias kissed me. That worried everyone, but it scared Rias. Michael, how do you know? Albion, I felt the red energy nearby and noticed that I was outside the restaurant watching what the Gremry did. Vitra, and not only that, he said, materializing in Saji's hands, he was also when he was stupid with Razor and Serorg playing and laughing with the Gremry. Now everyone was more than worried since they might think that they had changed him and forgotten about him, but the Gremry were only scared of what could happen to the brunette. Ophis, we must find him if it's not too late. Yasaka, why does Ophis-sama say that? Ophis, because with something like that, the dragon's curse can be activated, causing the person to die slowly and painfully. Everyone upon hearing that quickly went out in search of the brunette except the Gremry group since they were forbidden to leave the club by orders of Xerxes. They wanted to go out to look for their brunette and be able to reconcile, but they couldn't do anything against Xerxes' authority. So everyone went out to look for Issei while the Gremry stayed in the club. 3 hours later, Rias and her clan could be seen walking back and forth as they thought about how to resolve things with Issei. But then they see the leaders, Vala's team, Sarorg, Sona's clan, and the brown-haired boy's parents arrive. Rias, did they find it? I asked hopefully. Xerxes just shook his head, making the Gremry more worried. Ross, where could Issei be? Maybe I can help you with that, said a voice that was only recognized by Albion. Odin, who's there? He said, activating a magic circle. Hey, here, saying that they looked at Rias's desk on which there was a small red dragon. Albion, wow, Drake, the change looks very good on you, he said gracefully. Drake, don't make fun of me, white man, he said angrily. All, is that Drake? Michael, but what happened that made you free? Sarorg is Hyodou, he said nervously like the others. Drake, no, he's still alive, but I'm afraid not for long. Asia, W, what does Drake-sama mean by that? Drake just made a large screen appear in front of them, confusing them. Drake, what you will see will be the last battle my companion will fight for honor. Saying that, an image appeared on the screen that said the following. Chapter 3. Everyone in the club didn't understand what Drake meant about the last fight, but Valley, Saji, Sarorg, and Kiba understood what he meant since Issei had planned to fall as a warrior and not as fate decided for him. Ophis. But Issei can't fight Drake, she said worriedly. Azazel, you're right, if he does that his vitality will decrease and he might die. Drake, I told him the same thing but he didn't want to understand, he said sadly. Sona, but there is still a chance, if he performs the ritual. Rias, what ritual? Saji, the dragon ritual. Vala, which makes every feeling he ever felt for his partner, or in this case partners, be erased forever, thus saving his life. That scared the Gremry since they didn't want Issei to forget the love he feels for them. It was true that they made a big mistake, but they didn't want to lose him. Drake, unfortunately, that is no longer possible. Albion, why Drake? Drake, the curse greatly affected Issei, making it impossible to cure him, he said depressed. That's why he wants to say goodbye as a warrior. Saying that on the big screen, the following happened. Everyone was more than impressed by that since Issei was not going to fight just anyone, but he was going to face the man who was responsible for killing several warriors of the supernatural world and also humiliating Great Red when he challenged him to a fight without rules. Yasaka, seriously, Issei is going to face that monster? She asked, scared. Drake, not a monster, a beast, he corrected, and yes, he plans to face him, and not only for the title, but also to show that Samoan's strength also runs through his blood. Odin, Samoan force? De Issei, does he want to? But then a sound is heard coming from the screen, drawing everyone's attention. Announcer, we now move on to tonight's main event, a one-fall match for the WWE Universal title. Announcer, introducing first the challenger, weighing in at 300 pounds from Quid, Japan, the top dog Issei Hyodou. Saying that, a figure appeared at the entrance of the stage, and as it approached the light it was seen that it was Issei. Imagine it's Issei instead of Roman. Everyone watched as Issei charged his Superman right hook and hit the ground, causing several fireworks to shoot into the sky. Issei began to walk towards the ring with a serious face. At the club, everyone looked at Issei with great concern as they noticed that he was very pale and couldn't walk very well. Azazel, we must stop that fight. Xerxes, but how will we do it? Valley, I know, he said, drawing everyone's attention. We caused an accident like a fire and... Drake, that's never going to work. Yasaka, why do you say that, Drake? P. From Issei. Because that place is very well prepared for any situation, and those people who fight are not normal. Odin, and how do you know that? P. Say Issei, by the he said, pointing at the screen. Everyone looked at the screen, observing a dark-skinned man, with a beard, no hair, big muscles and a tattoo on his left shoulder. Azazel, who is he? M. De Issei, the people's champion, the Rock. Asia, and the one that has to do with Issei-san? P. From Issei. It's because one day he told Issei that he would never be a Samoan warrior, he said, impressing everyone, and that's why he wants to show them that the Samoan spirit also runs in his blood. Rias was going to say something, but the commentator started talking again, and they paid attention to what was going to happen. Announcer, now introducing the champion, weighing in at 360 pounds, the Beast Incarnate, the Great Conqueror. In that, the Great Beast Incarnate entered accompanied by Paul, with the Universal Championship on his waist and a mocking smile decorating his face, since he thought that he had already won this fight, since if he could beat the Undertaker, he could beat the big dog, was what he thought. Issei only looked very seriously and calculatingly at Brock, but also praying to finish the fight before his vitality reached zero, and thus be able to show the people's champion that he also had Samoan blood in his veins. Chapter 4. Brock Lesnar and Issei Hyodou stared at each other as the referee held the Universal Championship and raised it for everyone to see. The pressure could be felt in the place. The referee rang the bell, and immediately Issei went to attack Brock Lesnar, but he only carried him and slammed him into the opposite corner, and began to hurt the brown-haired man's abdomen, which grimaced in pain as he felt Brock's attacks on his abdomen. At the club, everyone saw that with great concern, since that was Issei's most delicate area due to the curse. Rias, we have to do something to stop this fight. Sona, Rias, Drake already said that it's impossible to stop her. Aquino, but we have to do something. But then they heard someone being whipped roughly, so they saw on the screen how Issei was being whipped again and again against the canvas. Drake, Suplex City has arrived, he said seriously. In the fight, Issei tried to free himself from Brock's hold, but this only held him tighter and applied a suplex to him over and over again without stopping until he decided to apply a final suplex with more force. Issei tried to get up, but Brock started giving him a series of knees to the ribs, making the brown-haired man scream in pain. After that, Brock put him on his shoulders and did an F5, then covered him. The Rock thought that would be all and was disappointed by that. Referee 1-2. The count didn't end as Issei got rid of Brock, preventing the count from reaching 3. The Rock, seeing this, sat back down and continued watching the fight to see what was going to happen. Issei tried to get up with the help of the ropes while Brock approached him slowly and threateningly, only to receive a forearm to the face from the brown-haired boy. Issei began to connect several forearms in the face of the incarnate beast, making him back off, but Brock connected a knee in the pit of Issei's stomach, leaving him without air and also making him spit out some blood. But not satisfied with that, Brock got on top of him and began to brutally hit him with his elbow in the head. The way he rubbed his elbow was so brutal that everyone covered their eyes so as not to see. The referee separated Brock from Issei and began to examine him, but in the end everyone saw how Lesnar had made a wound in his head from which a lot of blood was beginning to come out. At the club, everyone watched this with concern as they noticed how Issei's senses were not reacting very well and he was beginning to spit blood. Albion, can't hold out any longer. Serorg, I'm surprised how Issei continues to fight despite having the dragon's curse on him. Valley, but I doubt I can continue. The curse is already in its final stage. It is about to end and Issei is already running out of strength to continue fighting, he said seriously. In the fight, Issei tried to get up while the referee looked at the wound on his head, but then Brock pushed the referee and grabbed Issei from behind. Brock Suplex City Hitch. Saying that, he began to do a great series of suplexes to Issei, leaving him worse, but in one of those he released him, letting him fall outside the ring. Brock just laughed at that and waited for the brown-haired man to dare to get up in the ring. Issei began to get up slowly and painfully while being watched by The Rock, who was very impressed that Issei resisted for a long time with the beast incarnate. Brock, tired of waiting, grabbed Issei by the head and lifted him into the ring, but Issei held him by the nape of the neck and let himself fall, causing the beast to hurt himself with the ropes of the ring. The brown-haired man was going to proceed to take Brock out of the ring over the third rope. But the beast held him tightly, and did a German suplex, causing Issei to return to the ring. Issei began to cough up a lot of blood while his face was also covered by the blood coming out of his head. Everyone could not believe the state the older dog was in. They could not understand how he still endured the punishments of the incarnate beast. But then they saw how Brock began to take off his gloves, leaving his hands bare, and grabbed Issei by the hair. "Brock, I told you, kid, you never had the chance to defeat me," he said, giving him a big slap that resounded throughout the city. At the club, the men instinctively touched the cheek where Issei was hit, while the girls watched that in pain, but the Gremry only watched that with helplessness, since they wanted to intervene but they couldn't, since first the place where the event was taking place was very far from their reach, and also they didn't have the power to help him. In the fight, Issei was laughing at the slap Brock Lesnar had given him, which baffled everyone but made Brock angry. "Brock, what are you laughing at, kid?" "Issei, I laugh at your blows," he said with a smile on his bloody face. "Brock, from my hits?" "Issei, that's right, since you hit like a girl." In that he receives a kick in his face, causing him to spit out a lot of blood, while Brock looked at him with hatred, then began again with the brown-haired boy's punishment. Chapter 5. Everyone was watching in great horror what was happening, as Brock Lesnar had destroyed the entire ring with a suplex that he had done to Issei with all his strength. Then he continued hitting him to the point of opening the wound on his forehead even more and also accelerating the curse he was suffering. Now everyone saw how Issei was crawling to one of the protective walls to try to get up, while Brock looked at him with a wicked smile, and had blood on his hands. "Brock, come on, Hitch, get up," he said madly. Issei began to get up with the strength he had left, and the moment he did so he lunged at Brock, starting to hit him while the latter tried to hold him by the back. In that, Brock charged him, while he was still being hit by Issei, and began to run against one of the protective walls, going through it. Issei began to spit a lot of blood again, while Brock got up as if nothing had happened. "Brock, you are nothing," he said while grabbing him by the hair and applying a suplex. Brock began to apply Suplex City to Issei, who began to spit more blood as he received more damage from the fierce attacks of the incarnate beast. A cult club. Everyone was horrified by the brutality of Brock's attacks, as he had no compassion for the brown-haired boy. In fact, he was enjoying it, something that terrified everyone, but more so the Gremry, since what was happening was their fault, and they could not bear to see the man who had stolen their hearts being beaten like that. "Serorg, I can't stay here while watching my friend being slaughtered," he said as he prepared his armor to fly quickly to where he was. "Valley, I support you," he said, summoning his armor. "I'm not going to let my rival die like that." Both of them left the club at high speed in the direction of EU. I don't remember where the event was held, to try to stop it, while the others just stayed to see what else happened. It was no secret that they wanted to interfere, but they were the only ones who had the power to try to even give Issei a little help. In the fight, the brown-haired boy tried to get up while Brock made fun of him and how weak he was. Issei just thought if what he said was true, but then he turned to the side looking at the Rock, who just shook his head while looking at him seriously. Issei understood what he wanted to say but would be held by Brock, who wanted to do a suplex on him. But the brown-haired boy began to hit him with his elbow, getting him to let go. Then he began to give him right hooks. But when he was going to give him a rope around the neck, Brock grabs him and does a suplex on him. "Brock, damn brat," he said angrily as he wiped the blood from his cheek and kicked him in the face. Issei, "Ha ha ha, that's all," he said as he stood up and slapped him. Brock kicked Issei's midsection, causing him to spit blood, and then elbowed him with his sword twice. Issei tried to get up while Brock mocked him by moving around him, but Issei took advantage of that carelessness to connect a punch to his face. But Brock kneed him in the pit of his stomach and then carried him and dropped him onto the protective wall, starting to knee Issei in the head and chest. After a few minutes he left him hanging there just to give him a powerful kick and looked at the Rock, who had a look of pure hatred. "Brock, ha, and he's supposed to be your nephew?" he said maliciously. The Rock turned to see Issei, who was crawling to the metal steps to get up. He was about to get in to defend the brown-haired boy, but then, at the entrance to the ring, a little girl could be seen running towards Issei. The little girl, upon reaching the chestnut-haired boy, hugged him tightly as several tears fell. Some referees also went to the ring to get the girl out of there, but then they saw Brock Lesnar approaching them in an intimidating manner while laughing. This scared the referees a lot, but the girl only hugged the chestnut-haired boy even tighter. "Brock, you are very brave, girl." "Issei, Annie, get out of here," he said very weakly. "Annie, no, I'm not going to let him hurt you anymore," she said, hugging Issei tighter. "Brock, there, girl," he said with a smile, grabbing her hair. Everyone looked at that with hatred. They wanted to rush to hit Brock Lesnar for what he was doing, but they knew what he was capable of. Brock was going to proceed to hit the little girl, but in doing so he would receive a powerful blow to the face from the brown-haired boy. "Brock, son of a," he said while holding his nose from which blood was coming out. "Issei, now consider yourself dead, damn it," he said with a deeper voice while a purple aura covered him. The brown-haired boy looked up, revealing that his eyes were glowing purple. Everyone didn't understand what was happening, but then Issei gave a loud scream, causing the light to shine brighter and causing a tremor. It took about 5 minutes until the light dissipated. It took everyone a while to regain their sight, but when they did, they were shocked to see the brown-haired boy's appearance. Hidden Club. The reaction was not so different. You could see astonishment on their faces, but then they noticed black marks on the lower part of the neck. They did not understand what it was, but Ophis and Drake already knew and became more worried. "Drake, oh no. Kiba, what's wrong, Drake?" "Drake, the curse accelerated. If he continues like this, his vitality will run out faster," he said, worrying everyone but more the Gremry. Elsewhere, everything could be seen in ruins, blue fire coming out from the depths of the darkness, and the crying of several people could be heard begging for mercy. But we will focus on what seemed to be some ruins from which the silhouette of a man began to be seen while the moon illuminated it. "It's time for you to rest in peace, Hyodou Issei," he said as he disappeared into the mist, to claim a special soul, that of Issei Hyodou. Chapter 6. Everyone looked with great shock at the change that had taken place in the brunette, since not only had his muscles increased, he also wore Roman armor and a purple aura surrounded him. But the most remarkable thing was his power. A great energy could be felt emanating from him, but the Rock was the only one who could feel it for obvious reasons. Everyone watched as Issei and Brock stared at each other, causing enormous pressure, although it was possible to notice a little that the brunette had a grimace of disgust, and that was because of the black marks that were slowly expanding across his neck. "Brock, you better give up if you don't want me to." He didn't finish as the brown-haired boy gave him a strong blow to the jaw, then levitated a little above him, seeing his eyes full of shock, to then give him a powerful blow with his shield, burying it in the ground in addition to causing an immense crater. Luckily, the Rock had grabbed the little girl after Issei gave the first blow. In addition to the fact that the entire spectator area was prepared in case some superstars got serious in the middle of a fight, since thanks to some superstars, the spectator areas were capable of creating barriers to protect them as soon as they felt an increase in power like the one Issei did. Now everyone looked at the immense crater. They were shocked to see its depth, but then they heard a roar and saw something come out at maximum speed. When they calmed down a bit, they saw that it was Brock Lesnar, but Issei appeared above him. "Issei, this will teach you," he said, preparing a blow with his shield. "Not to mess with my daughter," he shouted angrily while hitting him so hard that he sent him flying away from Levi's stadium. Everyone was very impressed by Issei's tremendous strength, who quickly headed to the place where the incarnate beast had fallen while an industry helicopter followed him to continue broadcasting the fight. Qua Cult Club. Everyone looked with great astonishment at what Issei had done. He revealed his power in order to protect the little girl who came to his aid, and to surprise even more, he said that she was his daughter. "Yasaka, what do you mean T, she is your daughter," she said with shock upon hearing that. "Drake, a few days after we left this city, we found that little girl rummaging through the trash looking for something to eat." Everyone was even more surprised by that. "As you already know how my partner is, he took her to the apartment he rented, bathed her, dressed her and fed her. In short, he gave her the love and warmth of a father." Everyone just put on a smile, since indeed, that was Issei's way of being. With Issei, he was arriving where Brock had been sent flying. It was not that difficult to follow his trail, since thanks to the blow that Issei had given him, he had taken parts of buildings and cars with him. When he arrived where the beast fell, he could see a large hole and landed in front of the crater. But as he did so, the annoyance invaded him again, thus grabbing the left side of his neck. but out of nowhere the rubble flew out, and a blow was aimed at the brown-haired boy, who reacted quickly and blocked it with his shield. But the blow was so strong that it broke it and made the brown-haired boy retreat quite a bit. Issei, this can't be, he said before getting on one knee while holding the hand where he carried his shield. Brock, ha ha ha, you see it now, brat, you will never be able to defeat me, he said with a more terrifying voice. The camera focused on the trail of dust in front of the brunette, and when the smoke dissipated, everyone was surprised as they saw a more muscular Brock Lesnar, with a red glow surrounding his hands, feet, and eyes, and his teeth were now fangs. Brock, congratulations, boy, you are the third one who forces me to use this form, ha ha ha. Issei just tried to get up, but Brock began to hit him mercilessly. While all this was broadcast throughout the world, everyone saw how it was impossible for the brown-haired man to counterattack. He looked helpless, something that shocked them quite a bit since in the short time he was with WWE he had shown great strength. But now it seemed that he was just a punching bag for Brock. He didn't stop hitting him until with a quick movement Issei connected a mallet-shaped blow to Brock's face, and then a right deployment. But when he was going to connect another blow, Brock got ahead of him with a left deployment, and then a right, and then a powerful blow to the pit of the stomach that sent him flying into some rubble. Brock, come on kid, I'm not done warming up yet, he said with an arrogant smile. The camera focused on the place where Issei was sent, observing how he was lying on the ground with his armor cracked, blood coming out of his head as well as his mouth, and the black marks were already more visible since they were occupying the lower part of his left cheek, implying that his time was running out. Chapter 7. Everyone watched with great horror the scene of Issei and Brock Lesnar, since the beast incarnate was giving him a brutal beating and had no compassion for him. Even though the brown-haired boy got up again and again, he could not do anything against the fury of the beast. It was as if his body had already reached its limit, but somehow he endured the brutal punishments of the beast and got up, implying that he did not plan to lose. Hidden Club Qua. Everyone was quite worried about the brown-haired boy's condition as a lot of blood was coming out of his head non-stop. His armor was totally broken, leaving only his pants all torn, and the black thorns were expanding more quickly. They had already covered a large part of the brown-haired boy's left arm. Rias, please Issei, don't get up anymore, she said, shedding many tears while she saw on the screen the brown-haired boy lying on the ground while Brock just looked at him. But then the chestnut tree begins to rise until it is attacked with great ferocity by the incarnate beast. Akino, no, please leave him alone, she screamed, watching how Issei was grabbed by the head and slammed against the ground with great roughness. Kaneko, senpai, please stop, she screamed as she got on her knees and started crying harder. On the US coast, Vala and Serorg could be seen flying at high speed to where the fight was taking place to try to help the brown-haired boy. Valley, we're almost there, he shouted so Serorg could hear him, we just have to increase the speed more. Saying that, they both flew faster to try to get to where their friend and rival was and try to help him. In the fight, Issei had received a blow from the beast, putting him on the edge of a cliff. Then he went to the brown-haired boy quickly to give him a powerful blow that sent him against a mountain. Issei, I am running out of time, he said before vomiting a lot of blood. He tried to get up, but Brock fell on top of him, causing him to spit out a lot of blood. Then he grabbed him by the neck and hit him so hard that he almost went over the mountain. Brock, I'll kill you, I shouted, turning to him and starting to hit his stomach. Issei only groaned in pain as he tried to endure the blows, but in a final blow from the beast, the brown-haired boy was sent flying across the mountain and forming a large path of destruction until he crashed at the foot of a small saw. Issei got up as best he could, only to see how the beast landed in front of him and hit him, knocking him down. He got up again and faced him while watching him gasp for air. Issei, no, I won't give up, he said, clenching his fists to throw a punch, but again he is knocked down by another punch from Brock. I will defeat you. At that point Brock began to beat Issei mercilessly while everyone watched in horror as a great fighter fell at the hands of the beast incarnate. With an E, she just hugged the rock tightly while several tears fell down her face while the town's champion watched with great hatred as they beat his nephew, and it was no different for the others. Even some wrestlers wanted to interfere, especially one with dark hair and black clothes who watched with great pain what they did to her greatest friend. At the club, Everyone was terrified by how the brown-haired boy was brutally beaten, but the Gremry girls, already more than desperate, decided to quickly head to where the event was heading, not caring about the calls of the others. In the fight, Brock had already stopped hitting Issei and saw how he was very injured with blood coming out of his mouth, head and on his arms, but the marks of the fall of the dragon that were on his left arm were also noticeable, and much of his torso in addition to covering the left part of his neck and left cheek. Brock, ha 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 ha, it's about time I died, I tried to say while trying to crush him. Divide it was heard, causing Brock to stop and be tracked by a golden light crashing into a large rock. Issei opened his eyes as wide as he could, and what he could see was a white armor floating above him. Issei v. Vala? Was the only thing he asked before falling unconscious. Vala, calm down Issei, now we face each other, he said, and then saw how Serorg flew towards the girls with the rock. Then Brock Lesnar comes out and jumps towards him and starts hitting him, causing the helmet of his armor to start cracking. Brock, how dare you? He asked while continuing to hit the bale. Vala fired a blast of energy at the beast's back, drawing its attention. Valley, leave them alone, Lesnar, fight me, he claimed to fight him. Brock just smiled and jumped to be in front of him and grabbed him by the neck and started to push his face against the wall, only for Vala to kick free and then punch him. Unfortunately, that didn't even tickle him. With the spectators, they watched with great shock as those two subjects tried to protect Issei, but Annie looked with great sadness at her father, fearing the worst. Annie, wake up already, Daddy, she screamed while looking at the brown-haired boy lying on the floor, and the black marks were spreading further. Please wake up already, Daddy, she said, seeing how he didn't react. Daddy. Issei, Annie, he said, and then suddenly opened his eyes, revealing that they were glowing blue, and he watched as Vala tried to keep distance from the beast while firing magical attacks at him. I will not give up. With Vala, he had already been held by Brock and began to apply a bear hug to him, putting great force, causing Vala to give a heartbreaking scream. Serorg, Vala, I shouted, trying to help him. But Brock just landed a punch on him, sending him flying. Vala began to lose consciousness, but in that a large pillar of light shot into the sky, bewildering everyone. But in that Vala managed to recognize a silhouette in the pair of light, while giving a smile, and then falling unconscious while the others watched with great shock what was happening. Chapter 8. Everyone kept their gaze on the great pillar of blue light, which intensified further as Issei's great scream was heard. Only this scream was not one of pain or anything like that, but was full of hatred for all the suffering he had to go through, from the abandonment of the girls to the pain they caused him in, and the fall of the dragon. Everyone was very shocked to see how Issei released all that power, but more the fighters, since they knew what he was doing, although that worried them. As the light dissipated, a totally different Issei could be seen. His hair had grown, he looked older, he had a beard, a blue and white suit, and half of his face was marked by the black roots of the dragon fall. An enormous power was felt coming from him, but that worried the fighters, but more his friends, since they knew that to achieve that transformation an enormous price had to be paid, and that price was many years of life. But it is something that the fighters did not understand, how he was able to unlock that transformation if he did not have so much time left, how he could pay that price if he did not have enough time to even use it temporarily. But looking more closely, there were certain people who had realized something, that in his heart he no longer showed that glow that he used to show, that glow that was once created by the people who were important in his life. Ophis, Valis, Saji, Albion, Vitra, Drake and the Rock knew what he had done. He not only gave up the only thing he had left to live, but he also gave up what was most valuable to his reason, what he fought for all this time, and that in the end ended up killing him slowly and painfully. He had given up the feelings he once felt for those girls he loved with all his being, causing his heart to be as cold as ice. Brock Lesnar and Issei Hyodou stared at each other until they quickly headed towards each other and started fighting again. They exchanged punches and kicks, but it could be noticed that Issei was quite angry, since Brock was the one who was responsible for killing so many innocent people, but not only supernatural beings, also humans. He took their lives as if it were a simple game, but in a moment of carelessness Brock Lesnar gave him a powerful blow, causing him to go through a building, causing it to begin to collapse with several people inside. Brock, Ha ha ha, do you really think you can stop me? You're just an insect, the beast said mockingly. Let's see if you can stop me before I kill more people. Ha 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 ha, he said madly, and then took a big leap and headed to another city. Issei, hearing that, stood up and flew at full speed to try to intercept Brock Lesnar, but immediately all the people who were in the building tried to evacuate as quickly as possible. But in that, a family found themselves trapped in the last floors of the building. The mother was unconscious. A small baby was crying while the boy tried to find a way out, until he started screaming for help in the hopes that someone would hear them. Issei, who was still chasing Brock about to catch him, heard the boy's cries for help. He was tempted to go help those people, but he also had to make a difficult decision that hurt him a lot. He knew that if he let Brock escape, he would kill hundreds of people. Even if it hurt him, he should ignore them. Issei, having already reached Brock, gives him a strong blow, starting to have a short fight in the skies until he throws him into the depths of a lake. He knew that Lesnar couldn't get out of the water so quickly, so he prepares to go as quickly as possible to where that family was to help them. Fortunately for him, Ambrose and Rollins arrive at the place with the other fighters, beginning to evacuate the entire building. Issei manages to arrive and rescue the family who was trapped on the top floors of the building. Once everyone is safe, Issei returns to the lake to try to finish off the beast, but by then several helicopters were already in the area and Lesnar attacks them. Just in time, Issei arrives to save the soldiers and continue beating Lesnar. The beast falls at the doors of a fire station and there the fight continues. But Issei cannot fight calmly since he has to be constantly saving civilians. Fortunately for him, Pyage had arrived, who was trying to keep up with them since they left the city. Working as a team, they managed to land some good hits on Brock Lesnar, and for a few moments it seemed like they might have an advantage, but unfortunately the battle ends with both unconscious and Lesnar fleeing. 30 minutes later, The Rock and Little Annie were arriving at the place, seeing all the chaos until they found the unconscious bodies of Issei and Pyage. The little girl, without wasting time, ran to Issei to try to wake him up. "Annie, Dad? Dad, wake up. Please don't fall asleep, Dad. Dad," she said, moving Issei, getting him to wake up. "Issei, Annie, don't worry. Dad is fine," he said, standing up. "The Rock, are you okay, Issei?" "Issei, a little bruised, but I'm okay." "The Rock, okay, let me help you." "Issei, don't worry about me. Help Pyage. I must chase Lesnar. I must stop him. I must stop him at all costs," he said firmly while hugging his little girl. "Even if it costs me the last bit of my life," he thought the last thing while watching his little girl cry, and hugged him tighter. "Annie, Dad, please promise me that you'll be okay and that you'll come back to me." "Issei, I promise you, my little one." "Annie, by the pinky." "Issei, by the pinky." Thus Issei seals his promise with his little finger, although unfortunately he will not be able to keep it no matter how much he wanted to, and he knew it perfectly well. So Annie goes to where her uncle The Rock was with Pyage, and Issei takes flight to look for Lesnar. But while he searches for him, he wonders what he really is and where such a dark beast with immense power could have come from. Following the sound of the destruction, Issei soon finds Lesnar in a supermarket destroying everything. The two begin to fight again, and the battle takes them to a wooden bridge where they beat each other to a pulp. At that moment, The Rock arrives to try to help his nephew, but then he notices something very strange. Issei does not dodge Lesnar's blows, just as his suit was very torn, revealing the black marks of the dragon's curse that already almost covered the brown-haired man's torso as well as more than half of his face and back. "The Rock, Issei, what's wrong with you? Why don't you dodge Lesnar's attacks?" he said, trying to help him. "Issei, I'm very tired already, but I still have to stop him," he said, very tired. "Brock, you'll never be able to, brat, ha 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 ha," he said, leaving them unconscious once again, taking the opportunity to escape. Again and again history repeated itself, with Lesnar jumping from city to city, even crossing the great ocean that separated America from Asia, bringing his destruction and death near Issei's city. But every time the brown-haired boy found him, it was too late. He always saw how unhappy he was, killing innocent people and even children without any compassion, causing him to fill with fury and ferociously attack the beast, until their battle reaches the place where Issei did not want it to arrive. Quest City Hidden Club. 10 minutes later, everyone present was sitting in the club room somewhat seriously since when Issei started the third round with Brock Lesnar. The event broadcast was lost, and they could not fix their coordinates well since it seemed like they were moving from one side to the other, preventing them from going to help the brown-haired boy. Searches, where will Issei be? He said, very worried about the brown-haired boy. Azazel, if we don't do something soon he'll die, either from that bastard or from the dragon's curse, he said, equally worried. The other leaders in Office shared their concern while Kiba, Saji and Gasper tried to calm Milikas and Kuna, who were very worried about the brown-haired boy's well-being, while Grafia and Venelana watched as Rias and the other girls looked at their cell phones while several tears fell from their faces. They knew they were looking at photos and videos that they had taken when they had their dates or went to work together, while the brown-haired boy's parents along with Drake tried to calm down and think that their son was fine and that somehow he would get out of this problem. But they would be taken out of their affairs by a great tremor accompanied by an explosion coming from the center of the city. They did not understand what was happening until they heard a person scream while running. Subject, they have arrived, they are here. Issei, Hyodou and Brock Lesnar are fighting in the city center. All the students who were in the academy as well as teachers and parents began to run to get as far away as possible, since thanks to Kiryu, who had managed to broadcast live everything that was happening in the club. Discovering that the two most famous clubs were demons and the supernatural existed in addition to the fight between Brock Lesnar and Issei Hyodou. The leaders, upon hearing that they were in the center of the city fighting, quickly left the occult club and ran to the center to see what was happening, although Kiryu also went, although he kept his distance like Keitase, Murayama, Matsuda and Motohama. In the center, Issei and Lesnar's fight was causing collapses and explosions everywhere. The brown-haired boy cannot understand how someone so powerful can enjoy killing so many innocent people. All he wants is to destroy and use his power to end many innocent lives. The brown-haired boy uses the last of his strength to try to contain the beast, but Lesnar gets him off with a powerful blow. As if it were nothing at that moment, all the police and the Japanese army had already arrived at the combat zone to try to stop Lesnar, and began to attack him with everything they had, making the beast laugh with great madness. Issei manages to regain consciousness once again and manages to see that all the efforts of the people were useless, only he could stop him, and he knew it very well. He begins to attack the beast once again, while in his mind he is sure of one thing. He does not care about dying. He was never more willing to end his life. At all costs Lesnar would fall in qua. With the supernatural beings, they had arrived at the combat area, seeing the entire place destroyed, with several people running for their lives, and behind them came Kiryu and company. They were quite shocked, since they never thought that a fight of an event would become a great war of two powerful beings. The perverted brown-haired girl recorded everything while live for everyone to be attentive to what was happening, until they saw how Rias's group stopped and looked at something with great fear. They did not understand what was happening until they got a little closer and finally understood why they had that look, and could not help but put on faces like theirs. But what happened? Easily in front of them were Issei with his top robe all torn, revealing his entire torso, which was all black with many cuts from which blood was coming out, and Lesnar in the middle of the army shooting while they exchanged some good blows. Lesnar, give up, brat, ha ha ha. Issei, this is as far as you got, Lesnar, even if I die, he shouted, full of anger, impacting everyone but especially Rias' group, like Kiryu and company. But then the beast would take advantage again and grab the brown-haired boy by the leg and then throw him against a helicopter. The brown-haired boy recovers, but then he sees that the helicopter would fall on top of Kiryu and the others, so at great speed he went to save them, taking them with searches and the other leaders to keep them safe. Matsuda, Issei, are you okay? He asked while helping his friend get up, since he noticed that he was very tired. Issei, I have to go back. I have to stop Brock Lesnar once and for all, he said, more than determined. Office, Issei, if you continue fighting like that, your vitality will run out, and we will no longer be able to do anything to save you. There must be another way. Issei, no, Office, you know very well that there is no salvation for me. I already gave all my vitality to have this power and stop it. Rias, Issei, as your master and fiancé, I order you to stop this suicidal idea, she ordered while worrying about the brown-haired boy like the others. Issei, I stopped being your fiancé, Rias Gremory, a long time ago. You are no one to give me orders anymore, he said seriously while giving her a cold look. That shocked everyone since they never thought he would talk to them like that, but Saji decided to speak. Saji, so you also gave the feelings you had for them in exchange for that power, he said seriously. Issei, that's right, Saji. Asia, wait, what are you talking about? Drake, my partner gave all those feelings he once felt for you, love, affection, admiration, etc. to achieve the power he has, explained the Red Emperor Dragon. Zenobia, Issei say that's not true, she said, scared like the others. The brown-haired boy didn't say anything and just stood up to then go to his parents and give them a big hug while shedding a few tears. Issei, they were the best I could have had. Thank you very much for putting up with me all this time and always being with me. The brown-haired boy's parents knew that he was saying goodbye since he didn't have much time left until the bony one claimed his life, so they hugged him so tightly while shedding many tears. At that point the brown-haired boy separated from them and turned to see all his friends and his exes. Issei, it was a pleasure to have called you family, he said with a slight smile. Pause the soundtrack above and play this one. After saying that, he flies away at full speed, ready to give Lesnar what he deserves while listening to the pleas of his friends, ex-harem and family telling him not to go and come back. But the brunette just ignores them and attacks Lesnar with his body. Issei, nobody destroys my city with impunity. Damn it, I don't know where you got all that power or what you really are, but I promise you that this day you will fall, he said while attacking him, causing them to cross a building at high speed. Both end up reaching the entrance of the Core Academy, where Lesnar grabs Issei by the feet and slams him hard against the ground. But before giving another blow, he receives a stone, seeing Matsuda, Motohama, Kiryu, Murayama and Keitase who were throwing stones at him. Matsuda, stay away from our friend. Motohama, yes, get away. Keitase and Murayama, we won't let you hurt her anymore. Kiryu, stay away from Hyodou-kun. Lesnar decides to walk towards them, ready to kill them, while a big psychopathic smile appeared on his face. But before he could make the attempt, Issei comes out of the rubble and delivers a strong blow to the beast's back. Issei, don't even think about it, Lesnar. Nobody attacks my friends. If you want to do it, it will be over my dead body. So both began to hit each other with great brutality, making everything tremble and breaking the windows of the academy. But while both fight at the doors of the academy, Issei realizes that he will not endure more punishment. His energy is at rock bottom. He must finish off Lesnar right now for his friends, for his family. For all the innocent lives that damned wretch took. He must give it his all. He must kill him. He must put all the strength he had left into one last blow now that he is still standing. But Lesnar, who was also very tired, was already thinking the same thing and unleashed his anger in one last fist. So both hit each other, causing a loud bang as well as a great tremor that shook the entire city, and in front of the eyes of the entire army, cameras, spectators, friends and family. Issei, Hyodou and Brock Lesnar fall to the ground at the same time. Chapter 9. Everyone looked at the bodies of Issei and Lesnar lying on the ground, but then they saw the RCK arrive along with some fighters who were friends of Issei, but from among all of them came out Issei's little girl, and he, seeing the state of her father, tried to make him react by shaking his body as hard as she could. Annie, Dad, get up, she said, trying to hold back her tears. Come on, Dad, she said without receiving an answer. You sniff, promised me, sniff, that you would never sniff, leave me alone, sniff. At that the brown-haired man takes a deep breath, making everyone happy that he was still alive, so The Rock along with Ambrose, Rias, Cena, Sheamus, Paige and Issei's parents went to where he was to try to help him. The Rock, I'm glad you're okay, Issei, he said as he carefully lifted him up. Annie, Odo-san, will you keep your word? She said, drawing everyone's attention. You're never going to leave me, right? Everyone didn't know what to say at that, especially Issei since his time was about to come. But when he was about to answer, a bell something rang that scared everyone who already knew that bell. A large whirlwind of blue flames appeared in the place. The flames intensified more and more to the point where Issei had to hug his daughter to protect her from the flames, and the other fighters had to cover themselves with whatever they could while the citizens and supernatural beings moved away. When the flames dissipated, everyone could see a large man in black clothes, flaming blue eyes and an aura as dark as the void. Everyone, the Undertaker, they shouted in shock when they saw the aforementioned standing in front of Issei, who was only hugging his daughter while staring at him. Undertaker, it's about time, Hyodou Issei, he said seriously while looking at him. The brown-haired boy just nodded and proceeded to get up while looking at his little girl, who clung to him more since she felt that Issei was going to leave, and she was not wrong. Issei, Annie, I'm sorry, but I have to go, he said, hugging his little girl tighter. Annie, but where are you going? Issei, Dad has one last trip to make. Annie, can I go with you? Issei, sigh, I'm sorry, Annie, but I have to take this trip alone, he said, crouching down to be at the height of the wig. Annie, when will you come back? Issei didn't know what to say, so he just hugged Annie with all his strength while a tear fell down his cheek, and everyone present began to cry at that scene, especially the Gremry, since they didn't want Issei to leave. But when they were going to run to where he was, the leaders decided to get in their way while shaking their heads. Issei, goodbye, Annie, he said, separating himself from her a little. Annie, Daddy, she said, holding on tighter. Issei, Dad has to go, he said, carrying her, and then seeing his parents who were approaching him. Please take care of her, he said, handing her to his mother. Issei, you are the greatest pride of our family, Issei, he said, carrying Annie while crying. Issei, we will take good care of her, son. Issei just gave a smile and then stood in front of the Undertaker, who just stood still in his place with his emotionless gaze waiting for Issei to finish saying goodbye. Undertaker, are you ready? Issei, I am. Saying that, the Undertaker opened a blue portal with purple details. The Undertaker stepped aside, letting the brown-haired man pass, and then walked behind him. Everyone watched as the brown-haired man and the Undertaker were about to leave until Annie broke free from the brown-haired man's mother and ran to where they were until she stopped the Undertaker by holding him by the leg. Annie, please sniff, let me go with you. Issei, Annie? Annie, please let me go with you, please, the little girl begged while crying. Issei, Annie, for. I didn't finish when I saw how the Undertaker raised his hand and then quickly moved it to the left, and then I saw how the little girl stopped crying, closed her eyes and fell to the ground, apparently dead. Issei, Annie? He asked as he approached her. But in that he would be held by the Undertaker by the shoulder, only to receive a powerful blow from Issei that sent him flying far away. At that, the brown-haired boy began to walk towards his daughter and took her in his arms. Issei, Annie? Annie, wake up please, he said, trying to wake up his little girl. Seeing that his little girl wasn't responding, he hugged her while The Rock and Mr. and Mrs. Hyodou approached. The Rock, Issei? He asked, worried about his nephew. Issei, son, I'm sorry. She tried to say but was interrupted by Issei, who handed her his little girl. Issei, please take care of her, he said while emanating a blue aura. Issei's parents only took the little girl and then saw how the brown-haired boy got up and walked towards where the Undertaker had fallen, but in that they saw how some rubble flew out while several blue flames were present, revealing the Undertaker, who did not have a scratch. Issei, give me back my Annie, he said while his hair covered his eyes. Give me back Annie, he shouted, and then went against the Undertaker. The Undertaker also did the same, both holding each other's fists, while Issei looked at the Undertaker with hatred while he had a neutral look and caused everything around him to fly. Play the soundtrack above. Both began to struggle, but it seemed that the Undertaker was not making it difficult for him even a little. But then the brown-haired man's hands began to glow, and then rays of energy came out of them that made the Undertaker back off, and then he jumped and hit him in the head, throwing him to the ground. Then he grabbed him by the head and slammed him into the ground and lifted him up, but he didn't count on the Undertaker hitting him again, causing him to spit blood as well as the marks on his body to spread further. Undertaker, your soul will not go to heaven or hell, he said, and then threw himself against the brown-haired man. Issei just lifted him up and then dropped him to the ground. He covered his fists with some of his energy and then tried to crush his head, but the Undertaker moved quickly, causing Issei to hit the ground, causing a huge tremor. Then he kicked him, sending him crashing into a truck, and began to hit him without letting him respond. Undertaker, die, he said, grabbing him by the neck and throwing him aside, but not before receiving a kick to the chin, knocking him down. The Undertaker tried to get up until the brown-haired man lifted a car and crashed it into his back, and then surrounded one of his fists with his energy, and then hit him flying against the old building of the occult club. The Undertaker tried to get up, but then he received another blow, sending him inside the club, causing it to start to collapse. Then the dead man gets up and throws a flame of blue fire at the brown-haired man from the palm of his hand, causing the brown-haired man to fly away, falling at everyone's feet, and then jump and fall on top of him, starting to hit him. Dinner. Issei Daijo trying to go help him but was sent flying by a barrier. Ambrose, what the hell? Issei, son, please get up, he said with tears as he watched the brown-haired boy being brutally beaten. Everyone wants to help the brown-haired boy, thus beginning to hit the barrier, including Issei's friends, the leaders, the dragon goddess, the Citri and Gremry entourages. Everyone wanted to help the brown-haired boy, but then Issei's mother sees Annie open her eyes. Issei, Anai? She asked, shocked, drawing everyone's attention. Oh, I'm glad you're still alive. Annie, what the ing happened? She asked, half asleep. Rias, but how is it possible that he is still alive? She asked, shocked, just like the others, since they saw how the Undertaker extracted her soul. The Rock, it seems that extracting his soul was not what he wanted to do. Dinner. Dreams of light, he said in a whisper. Azazel, what? Cena, what it does is create a deep sleep, leaving the rival unconscious for as long as the Undertaker wants, creating a mirage using the most desired desires of the affected person's heart. What was it that you dreamed about, little girl? Annie, I was on a small farm. My dad was with me and my grandparents were there too. Rollins, a peaceful life, he said, looking at the little girl. Annie, but everything started to change. There were crimson flames surrounding me and then I woke up. Albion, wait a minute, you said crimson flames? He asked, receiving a nod from the little girl. So it was Drake. Yes, it was me, he replied, appearing in the girl's small hand. Michael, Drake? But how did you get into the girl's subconscious? Drake, when I arrived, my partner once asked me that when his time came, I should take care of the little one. In that they hear a loud bang, seeing how the Undertaker had his fist nailed to the ground and then lifted Issei, who was almost unconscious and covered in blood. Annie, Otosan, she screamed worriedly, running to where Issei and the Undertaker were. Otosan, she screamed, very worried, while looking for a way to get through the shield. The brown-haired boy, upon hearing his little girl's voice, began to slowly open his eyes until he could see Annie. He tried to help her while the others tried to get her as far away from danger as possible. Issei, Annie? Annie, he said, opening his eyes completely, then looking at Undertaker and grabbing the arm he had him with and starting to slowly release himself, surprising Undertaker a little. The brown-haired man looked seriously at the dead man and then headbutted him, giving him a huge blow to the jaw that sent him into the sky, and then he made a great leap. The Undertaker had crossed the clouds and Issei had appeared in front of him, who had given him a huge blow, returning him to the ground, only for him to fall into the Core Academy, causing it to begin to collapse. Issei began to plummet as the Undertaker got up, but when he looked up at the sky he saw how the brown-haired man was about to fall. His eyes shined a little, and then he saw how a great blizzard of air accompanied by a large curtain of dust was present, breaking the barrier that the Undertaker created as well as destroying everything, while the fighters along with the leaders and the dragon goddess tried to make a shield to protect themselves and the others until everything passed, seeing nothing but rubble and dust. Annie, Daddy, she screamed, breaking free from the matriarch Hyodou. Issei, Annie, wait. Annie, Dad, she screamed as she ran through the rubble. Stop it until 122, which is the sad part. The little girl was running for almost 10 minutes looking for the chestnut tree until she decided to walk slowly while trying to look for it, but the dust didn't let her see until she heard something fall behind her. Annie, Dad? As he asked, he could only see how an electricity pole fell, revealing Issei, who was lying on the ground with many wounds and part of his body almost covered by the dragon's curse. Annie, Dad? She asked, approaching the brown-haired boy's body. Dad, please, you have to get up, she said, shaking him a little. Dad? We have to go home, she said with a brittle voice, seeing that the brown-haired boy didn't react. Help, please. Help my dad, she shouted, trying to make everyone hear her. Annie could only hug the lifeless body of the brunette, while the others appeared, seeing what was happening, beginning to feel a void forming in their hearts, while the Gremry began to cry while their hearts were broken, as well as the Hyodou when seeing the scene. Issei Hyodou had died. Chapter 10. This is Sniper Kark speaking as we return to our continued coverage of the death of Issei Hyodou. I am at the main cathedral in Kwa where in a few hours the funeral services will be held for the world's greatest fighter and hero, he said as sadness crept into his voice. In addition to his colleagues, family and friends, the arrival of the leaders of the factions of the Alliance is expected as well as those of other mythologies and different leaders of the world, he explained sadly. In the streets of Kwa and cities around the world, thousands of people say their final farewell to the Superman. Our live coverage will conclude after the ceremonial burial of Issei Hyodou this afternoon, and afterwards a panel of experts will try to answer the question at hand. Without Issei Hyodou, can the Shield exist? We will continue with this news soon. The TV then turns off and you can see a very messy and dirty office where Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose were. Seth, I have to admit I'm worried about our future too. Dean, I really didn't expect that from you, Rollins. Seth, how many times did we win? Just because he was there. Dean, yes, and I did so many stupid things because I knew Issei was accompanying me, he said sadly. Now I only have his example. I hope that's enough. Hyodou residence. Issei Hyodou's parents could be seen wearing elegant black suits, as well as little Annie, whose eyes were red and somewhat swollen, showing that she has not stopped crying since the brown-haired boy died. Annie, my Sniff Odo-san Sniff promised that he would be with Sniff me Sniff, she said very sadly. Do you think Oba-chan will come back? Mrs. Hyodou. I know it's hard to accept, she said hugging Annie, but he's already gone, and he can't come back. Annie, but he promised me. Issei's mother, like his father, only proceeded to hug the little girl as they began to cry. They shared several moments, good and bad, with the younger Hyodou, but now those memories will become a treasure that they will carry with them forever. 2 hours later, 1 hour left until the funeral. Many people could be seen gathered in the cathedral where Issei Hyodou's funeral would take place. Present were the leaders of the allied factions as well as those of other mythologies, the leaders of the world, Vala's team, Issei's family, friends and companions, and also surprisingly some ex-members of the Chaos Brigade who had left the wrong path thanks to the brown-haired boy. Kiba, Rias, and the others haven't arrived. Have you talked to them, Sona? Sona, they don't want to see anyone since what happened. They feel guilty for what happened, she said before hearing everyone else's astonishment. Tsubasa, is it them? I can't see. Paige, I do, he said it would be, and it would be annoying. Everyone was somewhat surprised and upset as they saw how the people who tried to get rid of Issei Hyodou since he arrived, the McMahons, had just arrived. Paige, Triple H, how dare you come here? Triple H, sorry, He didn't finish after receiving a slap from Paige. Paige, did you come to make fun of him? You tried to get rid of him ever since he arrived. Are you happy now? Is this what you've always wanted, isn't it? I hate you, I hate you. I hate you, he said as he began to cry. Triple H, believe it or not, we're going to miss you too, he said seriously while hugging her. 1 hour later. John Cena, we have gathered, united by loss, to share a precious gift, he said calmly while wearing a military vest, black shorts and dark tennis shoes. We all had the privilege of having our lives touched by Issei Hyodou. The older dog possessed many extraordinary virtues and he shared them freely with us. But none of them was more remarkable than his ability to dissect what needed to be done, and his great courage to do so without thinking about the personal costs. We strive to accept this gift and pass it on to others as an eternal tribute to Issei Hyodou, the strongest man on earth, who taught us all to be heroes. 10 minutes later, everyone who was at the cathedral gathered could be seen walking through the streets of Kwa as 6 of the greatest fighters transformed into their immortal forms carried Issei's grave to the center of the city where he would be buried to be remembered by all. The atmosphere was very sad. Everyone was very sad about the death of Hyodou, but the most affected were the brown-haired boy's parents as well as little Annie. Then Paige looked up at the top of a building, seeing a shadow that he identified immediately, knowing that it was the Undertaker who was watching everything before disappearing. They arrived at their destination where they could see a large statue in the shape of Issei's shield and proceeded to bury the brown-haired boy while everyone watched with great sadness and pain as the great Emperor Issei Hyodou was buried. 3 days later, everyone tried to rebuild their lives after Issei Hyodou's burial, But the human world still mourned his death. His friends still tried to believe that he would somehow surprise them like before. But the most affected were the Gremry, who did not leave their rooms in the underworld, but the most affected of them was Rias, who thought what would have happened if she hadn't thought of replacing him with Vala. Human world, everyone in the academy felt very empty since ever since Issei died, the core academy was no longer the same as before. Sona could be seen organizing her student council things before leaving since she was about to enter the university. Sona, sigh how much you are missed, Hyodou-kun. If only they had let you explain what happened that day, she said, remembering the brown-haired boy. Tsubaki, Kaisho, I came in upset. Sona, Tsubaki, what's wrong? Tsubaki, you have to come quickly. Sona, but where to? Tsubaki, on the way, he explained to her, he said, taking her by the hand and quickly leaving from there to then use a magic circle. 5 minutes later, Tsubaki and Sona could be seen arriving at Issei Hyodou's grave, where there were several police officers as well as John Cena, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, who were accompanied by the Hyodou parents. Sona, is what they told me true? John, see for yourself, he said, pointing to the grave. Sona turned towards the grave, shocked to see that it had been desecrated and that the brown-haired boy's body was no longer there. Sona approached the grave, but as she did so, she felt a great presence and then turned to the side, seeing the Undertaker in an alley, who was looking at her very seriously, and then disappeared into the darkness. Sona, what have you done, Undertaker? She asked quite seriously while looking at the alley where he disappeared. Elsewhere, you could see a river which was quite calm, surrounded by trees and some abandoned houses. The atmosphere was very calm, but on the banks of the river you could see a body which had nothing covering its piece, revealing some scars, but the most shocking thing is that that body was Issei Hyodou. Chapter 11. Narrates Issei. Darkness, that was the only thing I could see. Everything was dark, it was cold and I was very scared. But out of nowhere a great golden light appeared that began to show me the way through the darkness. I began to follow the light. Every time I moved forward I felt like the heat returned to my body. I began to walk faster until I saw something that made me happy. It was my little Annie, who gave me that sweet smile that characterized her. I began to run in order to try to reach her, but the moment I arrived everything lit up and then became dark again. The moment I opened my eyes again I breathed deeply. As if life was returning to my body, I felt the water wet my legs, the air blowing my face. I could see the night flight being decorated by many stars. I began to get up, although it was difficult for me. I did not understand what had happened. I almost did not remember anything of what had happened, but the moment I saw myself reflected in the water I was very impressed to see what my appearance was like. Why did I look so old? Why did I look like that? These were the questions I was asking myself in my mind, but then I got a horrible headache. I started to complain, while I knelt down and held my head with both hands. After a few minutes the pain stopped. What the hell had that been? I hadn't given it much thought and decided to get away from that place to find out where I was. But after walking a few minutes I could see a big city in the distance with a big red tower, and I immediately recognized it. It was the great city of Tokyo. Yes, it was very big and very beautiful. When it got dark, I decided to go to that city to see if I could get an answer to one of the many questions I had in my mind. So I started walking to that city to find out how I got to that lake. Normal narration. In the streets of the city of Tokyo everything was peace and quiet. You could see people walking to their homes while others took a night walk until an explosion occurred in a building, causing everyone to run away while there were people trapped in the fire. But then a young blonde man appeared with a red vest, white shirt, dark pants and a toned body. Terry Bogard. But what the hell happened here? I asked, seeing the huge fire. But when he went to see several people asking for help, he immediately threw himself into the flames to be able to get out as many people as he could, and all of this was seen by an Issei who was more than shocked by what happened. But without further ado he also decided to enter the building to get all the people he could out of that place. And when they had put all the people to safety they could see how a man with red hair, eyes of the same color, a black shirt with a white moon on the back as well as white pants came out of the same flames. Iori Yagami. Lori, this isn't the place either, she said disinterestedly. Where could it be? Terry, hey, did you do this? I asked without receiving an answer. Hey, I'm talking. At the moment of touching him, The red-haired subject hit him, making him retreat and drawing a little blood. The blonde only wiped the blood and got into a fighting stance to start fighting. Terry, okay, if that's what you want. After saying that, both began to fight, giving each other a very good combination of punches and kicks, although it could be noticed that the redhead had a great advantage by being much more skillful and faster than the blonde. Lori proceeded to grab him by the neck and then kick him, sending him against a van, causing him to be almost unconscious. Lori, it's time to end this. After saying that, she tried to kill him, but out of nowhere a girl appeared and kicked Lori, making him step back. When she saw better, the girl was a beautiful brunette with brown eyes, white skin and wearing strange red clothes. My Shirani? My, I think you'd be in trouble, Terry, and it seems I wasn't wrong. Terry, I'm glad to see you, he said before seeing how Lori was recovering from that blow he gave her, and he seemed somewhat upset about it. Lori, who do you think you are to attack me? My Shirani, and I'm the one who's going to defeat you, she said while getting into a battle stance. Lori, I hope you can confirm your words, she said, doing the same. Both of them stared at each other while a great tension built up between them, although in a quick movement the two of them threw themselves against each other to start the fight.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.